How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. It's been hard. It's obviously in lockdown. It's been hard
Hmm,
for everyone, isn't it? So that's
sure
it.
has.
Should we just jump straight into the video, or do you want to talk anything?
Go for it, mate. If you want to do yours, just go for it.
So we're going to be talking about the preview for the Manchester United versus Newcastle match on the weekend. It's a massive game. I want to hear your thoughts on it first. How are you feeling about it?
Well, as I say about every game, I have no confidence in the team really at the moment. It depends on how we set up. Unfortunately, with the players we have, we always seem to set up very defensively. I always think of there haven't really been many games this season where I can really say we started positively from the start.
Yeah,
We let the first half of games drift, and that's why we always end up in trouble.
yeah,
If we play positively, then we'll go forward and attack. But we do that, we're going to concede goals. So then we're in a situation of who's going to score more goals, us or Newcastle. We'd hope we do, but we just don't know if we're going to take our chances. If we're on form, then it's going to be fine. If we're not, then we're in the mud.
yeah. I mean, it's a must-win game, isn't it? Because we sort of there's been a slight dip in form at the moment. Obviously, we had that big win streak, and after that Sheffield United terrible loss, it's nothing. We haven't been able to get that consistency back. Really, what do you think?
I don't think there's been consistency the whole season, really. I think it's been
Yeah, it's up and down.
it's been a much season of poor or getting the result but playing poorly. We haven't
Yeah,
really had many games where we've been in control or anything, and I think
yeah.
that's
No,
where our
I was
problem
just
lies at the moment.
I was just going to say it was more that we were getting over the line, that we weren't playing that. I was saying to someone else the other day that even when we were winning, we weren't winning that well. Like that, the win we got against Fulham wasn't that convincing, really. So
No.
well, it's not like how City win 4 or 5-0. It was winning it by a very small margin.
It's not even just the scoreline. It's just we just let so much the game drift, and we only play well in certain parts of the game, and we'll never go any further forward if we do that. And whether that's on the players or the manager, I can't tell because sometimes it's fine, other times it isn't. Is that down to the manager telling them to let it drift, or are they just stuck with players that aren't good enough to play for us to take us to that next level?
Yeah,
I haven't got a clue.
I mean, talking about that, the next thing I was gonna go on to was, I mean, it's a bit sort of sidetracking from the preview, but I was just going to say, what are your thoughts on Ollie and whether he can take us to that next level?
It's hard to say because he's had two and a half seasons here now, pretty much,
Yeah,
and I think the problem is he's only been backed in one of those transfer windows. I think the first summer transfer window, when he had Maguire and Wan-Bissaka and Dan James, I do believe those are players he wants because
yeah,
when they all came into the team, they all started playing. This season, I don't believe any of those players that we bought he wanted. Hence, Van der Beek doesn't start.
yeah,
Cavani only starts probably because there's no one else to play that is going to
yeah,
do the job. We got a left back who was brought in as a backup, and two wingers that play with the under 23s are out on loan. So
yeah.
he wasn't backed in the summer transfer
No,
window. He wasn't given anyone to improve the team really,
it
and
really,
that's why there hasn't really been much
it
step
really,
forward from
it,
last season for me.
it really highlights the incompetence of the board, doesn't it? To a certain extent, that
Uh,
transfer window.
100%. I always go on about the board, and a lot of my fans always say you can't blame the board, but in some cases you can because unfortunately football's gone to a way now where the managers don't make the transfers. I
Yeah,
don't think the manager has any input in our transfers, so we're putting that into the hands of whoever does our transfers. We're not really sure who does. We don't have a director of football. Is it the board? Is it Woodward? We haven't really got a clue. The club have never really said. They're just the ones we hold accountable, and they run the club as a business. And that's why I just don't see us going forward. To even if you had one of the best managers like a Klopp or a Guardiola, they're still going to have the same problem. They're not going
what?
to get the players, and
what always
That's it,
resonates
really.
with me is that there was a quote with Sir Matt Busby where he said there was he was getting interviewed by this guy, the PFA, and he was saying, "You obviously
Mm,
they don't know football because they're not men of grass because those are the type of people who know bank accounts and that's sort of it's sort of like Woodward, isn't it? In a way, you don't really see Woodward as someone who really watches football or is passionate about football. He's more of
no.
a he literally is. I think he was a bank manager, wasn't he? So there's not much else to say about that.
It's just, we need a director of football, but I don't think it will ever happen. The
No.
Glazers are more than happy with Woodward. They
Yeah.
brought him in 2000. I think it was 2011. We got him in, and it hasn't really. The club hasn't really progressed anywhere from even when Sir Alex Ferguson was at the club. Since probably about Van Persie came in, that was the only real
Yeah.
player
We only
that's really
no
made
one was
a great impact to the moment.
no one was really saying anything negative about the Glazers at that time because we were getting trophies. We were getting major. We obviously we won the Champions League. We won the Premier League under the Glazers, but the transfers themselves, if you look at them, except from Van
There weren't
Persie,
really any.
no, there wasn't. I mean, there was Kagawa, and I can't think of any other massive signings. Obviously you've got the Di Marias and all those, but they were all flops. So I can't think of, except from Van Persie, one signing what has really worked for us at this point in
So,
time
not
under the
within the last
Glazers.
decade. I can't. I mean, you could argue maybe one matter, but has he really done much? Not
He was
really. He
kind of
hasn't really been
misused.
up
He's
to
been
standard.
misused as well, hasn't he? On the right wing.
Well, I blame that on the previous managers. I think
Yeah,
we're playing all players in the wrong position. Even with this manager now, I think with our forward three, we rotate them far too often in
yeah,
their position. We're playing Martial on the left hand side, who doesn't really do much there. Sacrificing the right hand side, playing Rashford there, and you got two players who aren't in their comfortable position. But that's all we do at the moment. We're using players to plug positions so we don't have to buy anyone. And I think soon they'll be playing Martial as a centre back, so we don't have to buy another one of those soon. Anything to save a bit of money. But they went out and spent 80 million on Maguire. So I don't know what
I,
our transfer
I,
business is,
no,
but
I really don't
there's no way we're
understand
going
it.
to get rid of him now.
I really don't understand the board because there was Upamecano would have only cost 50 million, yet we can spend 80 million on Harry Maguire. Where's the consistency?
Well, I think it was one of these signings. Leicester knew we were desperate. We were going to pay anything. We tried haggling for about a month. Still ended up playing the same price. And it was just another, Brexit FC player. Played in the Premier League. There was no risk. We knew he was going to be all right in the Premier League. And to be fair, he's come in and, he hasn't really got any worse than where he was at Leicester. It's just because the Swedish idiot playing next to him, you know, both of them together just a
Yeah,
mess. So
I don't think he's that bad
unfortunately,
when
we
he
just
plays with
signed
Bayern.
players.
I don't think he's that bad when he
He's
plays with.
not. I think. I think Eric Bailly should be playing more often. He
Yeah,
was fit um, when we played West Brom. The manager didn't play him, so that is on him. But unfortunately, we sign players now who are going to sell the shirts rather than players who are going to
yeah,
put a performance on the pitch.
yeah.
Hence, we signed Di Maria, Pogba, all these big names. All haven't really been successful.
They
Di
haven't
Maria
performed,
didn't really want to be here. Pogba spent 4 years here now. Probably only been fit for about two of
and
those.
now he's probably going to leave.
Alexis Sanchez, I think it's best to get rid of him.
Yeah,
I think his time here is done.
yeah.
He's on mega money, and he's injured again for probably about 4 or 5 weeks.
Oh yeah, I
So
saw that.
he's a great player on his day, but
He hasn't had enough of those days.
there's no point. It's not just that. There's no point having a great player on their day when they're not even fit to play to have that day. So
Exactly.
I think it's best to get him out the door. We don't need to sign a replacement. We have got Van der Beek there. I think
But
he
is
was
he going to
probably
trust
brought
Van
in
der
as a
Beek?
replacement for that.
Do you think so?
Well, I don't know. I think he'd still play Fred and McTominay over
Yeah,
Pogba if he was fit. He'd play Pogba on the left wing. So
yeah,
I think he has got some sort of secret love relationship with McTominay. He really likes him.
yeah.
And I don't think McTominay's a bad player.
No,
I think he probably will start against Newcastle, but unfortunately, I think we play him in the wrong position.
I don't think he's a
When he
CDM.
came through the
I
youth
think
academy,
he's terrible
he
at
was a
CDM. I think he's
his
better at box to box.
defensively, he's all over the place.
Yeah,
He is box to box. He came out of the academy and he was an attacking midfielder. You can probably move an attacking midfielder down to that sort of number 8 box to box, but to CDM, I think it's ridiculous. And I think a lot of people think he can play CDM because he
I
plays
don't.
centre back for
I
Scotland.
can't
And
see that. I can't see
I
that
don't know
at
what
all.
the manager's doing there to play him centre back. It just proves why Scottish football is rubbish. But yeah, I think there's a lot of players in this team that need replacing. We need a proper CDM to do the job of Fred and McTominay, so we don't have to play two. And then we can have that box to box. You have the 5 going forward and the 5 staying back. But we need another centre back before we have another CDM. Otherwise, it's just going to be the same problem. Still going to be Maguire and Lindelof.
Imagine if we got a centre back in the summer. I think we'd be in a far better position, far better position, wouldn't we? If we'd have got a good centre back.
I think
I know it's all hypothetical.
It's got to be the priority now. It's got to be the priority. Even if they are businessmen, they must know a little bit about football, and sure, they must be able to see now, that we do need a centre back. I've heard rumours about Koundé being the priority, going to cost about £70 million. Are we going to pay that for a centre back though? I don't know.
They paid 80
I don't know how much money is available,
but then I don't know. It's going to be that. I
don't know. I hope we do get a centre back. If we don't, it's just going to be the same thing over and over again. Another season of poor, inconsistent results.
I think,
and individual errors.
What I would say is they set him up to fail in the last transfer window, wouldn't you say? With getting pretty much no one he wanted. Well, no one he wanted.
Yeah.
Or at the start of the season, I thought he was going to go. I thought he was after that Leipzig game. I thought he hasn't got long left. But then obviously he turned it around at Everton and it got better.
I don't think his job's in. I think his job will only be in. Well, compared to what we've done with previous managers, if he doesn't get the top 4 into the Champions League, I think then maybe they might look at someone else. But I think they're happy with him at the moment. He'll easily be their puppet. He'll come out to games where we played awfully.
Yeah.
He'll come out and say, "Oh, I think we played well," and he'll spin off the usual spiel. And we got a captain. He loves Harry Maguire. The club love Maguire as a captain.
Yeah.
He talks a load of rubbish in his interviews as well. In his West Brom interview after the game, starts blaming the referee for us drawing the game. Yeah, I think that's disgraced. I don't think he's captain material.
But I think Bruno should be captain.
He is.
I don't know how he's not captain. He is the captain in effect, isn't he?
He is, yeah. He's always the one, getting in the referee's face. I just picture that game against Spurs where we lose 6-1 and all the players around the referee disputing the red card and Maguire's 20 yards away with his hands on his hips looking up to the sky. Like, what use is that? That's not a captain for me. But I don't think they'll get rid of him as captain. He's probably a great lad in the dressing room, have a laugh, go out and have a beer with him, go and punch some people in Greece. And I think we're stuck with him. I think he'll be here till he retires when he's about 40 years old. He'll still be our captain, still be playing every week. Probably have some other idiot playing next to him as well.
Probably get Phil Jones back in. I
heard, I was reading a few articles online the other day that Ollie thinks Jones is in his plans. I mean, if we've got Phil Jones in our plans, then we really are screwed. Kiss goodbye to any FA Cup or any Europa League. Kiss goodbye to top 4 if he comes back. He's got to be out the door and serve about 4 or 5 other players in this team.
I didn't even. He's still at the club for another 2 years. They gave him a 5-year contract.
That's our problem. We give players contracts that are far too long, and they're on money that they shouldn't be on. He's on about 50, 60 grand a week. We got players like Juan Mata on like 120 grand a week for sitting at home doing nothing. Yeah. Romero's on about 80 grand a week doing nothing. There's just so much money tied up just in players that we don't need, but we can't get rid of them because they're on too much money and they won't take a paycheck.
Yeah.
Well, not even just that. They can't afford the wages and they're not going to take a pay cut. They'd rather sit at home, watching the football rather than playing. So it's a big mess. And I do worry going forward, not just with the manager or the players, but the whole way the club's run. I think we're in a bit of trouble, but I don't think that's ever going to change. I don't think the Glazers would ever.
It needs a whole reshuffle of the club.
It
But
does.
yeah, but you can't see it happening anytime
We
soon.
need director of football. We probably need new owners, but they're never going to sell up. We make them a lot of money, and they'll go and put their money into, their American football team who
Yeah,
won the Super Bowl.
exactly.
They go and buy out the best player
Tom Brady.
in um, American football, and they go and win, the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
So clearly that shows when you buy the best players, you get results.
but they just don't
And
give a damn
again,
about our
I
club.
don't even. They don't know. As long as we get top four, that'll be happy for them. If we don't, maybe they'll sack
I
the
doubt.
manager.
Do
But
you think they even look at the table? I bet they don't even look at the table. I mean, they're probably just
just
sitting
look
in
at the
their
bank balance,
little
mate.
resort in Florida, having some caviar, enjoying the Super Bowl.
I mean, when was the last time you saw them over? I mean, not that they can really anyway at the moment, but when was the last time you saw them over here at a game? Probably years and years and years ago. It's a long time. I can't even, for the amount of time I've watched United, I can't actually remember seeing them at any of the game for a good couple of years now. So they don't give a shit. Um, and that's why I don't have any hope for the transfer window this year either. I think it's going to be, I think I could see another 2 months trying to get Jadon Sancho again, and that's just not the priority for me. I don't think we need a right winger. We've spent now, nearly 25, 30 million on two young, promising wingers, and
Yeah,
we've got them now, so they've got to have a chance. There's no point spending 8 million on Palestri, 16 million on Diallo to shove them in the under 23s for another year.
yeah,
We had the chance to get Sancho last year. We didn't pay the money. Got to move on now, and we've got to get some
that's it.
defensive players in because it's evident where that's where we're losing the games now. If we
Yeah,
can get some defenders in, start building a back line, then maybe we can start playing some attacking football, give the freedom to one of our midfielders to go up and play with the front four, and maybe then we'll start getting some games. But until then, I think things will be very much the same. And I can see a tough game against Newcastle. I can
yeah.
see a tough game against Sociedad as well. I think that'll be a very tough game as well. I think you'll play a lot of
I'm not looking forward to that.
rotations, and I can even. Oh no, I'm not looking forward to the Europa League anyway. But I think it's a tough draw. Sociedad are a good team, and they've got a few good individual
David
players, and I
Silva.
think they'll cause us problems.
Yeah,
Yeah, they got Januzaj. He's Man United reject, but he's all right when he's over there. They got that Ayazabal over on the other side. I think we could be in trouble. And if we lose that one, I think Newcastle will be a tough game. Newcastle don't really create chances, but where have they created most of their chances this season? Set pieces. Where do we concede goals? Set pieces. So there we go. I think it could be two tough results, and it all depends on how
but
we play. If we
and the thing
set up
is,
correctly, we can
if
win both.
about the and on the West Brom match, we did have most of the possession in that game, and West Brom and Newcastle have kind of similar styles of football in that they both kind of score in from set plays and crosses and corners. So
Hmm.
I think that is a bit of an interesting one. I think it could go on a similar path to the West Brom game.
I think it could do. I think I could see another 44 minutes of just doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
Maybe even longer into the second half, and then if we concede first, we'll wake up, or if we don't, then we'll leave it to the last 15 or 10, 15 minutes that we have done and try and get some late goals. And that isn't going to work against every team.
no,
And it didn't work against West Brom. And we paid the price for it. We lost 2 points.
no.
Not that I think it
You
really
can't
impacts.
expect to play Premier League and have such a drop off, can you? You can't expect to play 50% in against teams in the Premier League and still win.
That's the thing, in the Premier League, every game is going to be a tough game, no matter who you play, especially how we set up. And sometimes it's worked. We've been lucky with some results, a lot of 1-0s, a lot of close results. Haven't really convincingly won, many games in the Premier League. The only one that really brings to mind for me is Leeds. I think we played very well in that game because of how Leeds play.
Yeah,
They play very much in our face, and we could hit them on the counter attack. Is what we did. Obviously, got that 9-0 against Southampton, but they were down
you
to
can't really take
10 and
that, can
9
you?
men, so don't really count that. No, I don't really count that as a result that I look at. But I think as long as we set up well, I think we can win against Newcastle. But if we don't, then we're going to be in trouble, and we'll be caught out again with our with our set pieces. I think, I don't think they'll cause too much of a threat going in behind. I don't think they have too many. Don't really have a prolific striker to really play in
Wilson's. I
behind.
think
Although,
Callum Wilson's
nor
injured,
is
isn't he?
West.
So
Oh, I'm not too sure if he's back yet. But I say that West Brom didn't have a prolific striker, and he could have had a hat trick.
God, no, we were lucky there as
So
well with that. That stupid. What was Maguire doing? He just slipped on his arse and then tried to get a foul for it. And that's not the first time I've seen him do that.
he's just too immobile for me. I don't really. Well, if we get someone next to him, then I'll have a better assessment and if he's good enough going forward with us. But unfortunately, even if he isn't, we're not going to get rid of him. He costs us £80 million. We probably wouldn't even get half of that for him back now if we were lucky. And we're never going to lose 40, £50 million on a player when we're run by businessmen. We're not going to get that amount there. I can't think of the last time we actually lost that amount of money on a player. Not at all. Not in the last decade. When Di Maria went, we got pretty much all that back. Lukaku got pretty much all of that back. Pogba, I don't think we'll get all of his £80 million back. Maybe
you could say
40
Sanchez,
or 50 if
but
you're
then
lucky.
Even Sanchez was a swap deal. Obviously, we had to pay for him to go to Inter.
The amount of money we wasted on him, not just on there was no transfer deal, obviously, but on the wages, on about rumored 450 grand a week.
Stupid money.
And again,
Absolutely.
half of it he was injured and didn't even see.
I saw a quote where he said after his first training session, he knew that he wanted to go back to Arsenal. It's stupid. It just makes you think, how is this club getting run? That these sort of players are coming to our club and go. How are they even getting into the club? How are they joining if they don't want to be here? Because surely we have to buy players who want to join.
Not just the money, Any player that we think, they'll sell a few shirts. Let's give him 450 grand a week.
He's good for the PR.
They'll sell us lots of shirts, which I'm sure he did. Probably get a few more Instagram followers and Twitter followers. And that's it. The business side of the club is fine, but on the pitch, we're in turmoil, and I just don't see a way out, regardless of the manager. That's why I don't really get on the manager's back. Even last season when things were going badly, I don't expect anything more because we haven't got a team that can challenge for the title. When everyone was getting all upset when Ollie said we're not in a title race a few weeks ago, he's right. We were never expected to be in a title race. You can't be in a title race with some of the players that we got. Our midfield of Fred and McTominay, I don't think either of those are good enough for a Premier League winning team.
No.
I don't think Lindelof's up to the standard required. The forward three, I'm not too sure on all of them at the moment. There's a lot of inconsistencies, and I think
what I'd say, inconsistent.
I think a lot of that's because of the positions that they play. We move Rashford across all over the front three this season.
I would say
so
with
is
Rashford.
Martial. Greenwood's
with Rashford. He's being overplayed a bit, isn't he? I often see him in the games. He's holding his back, and he often looks like he's just playing through injury. I'm thinking, I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if he's just getting played because he's Rashford and he could score or get an assist in the game, or I don't know if that's the right way of playing him. Just playing him because he could get a goal or assist.
We haven't got anyone else to play there. Dan James, again, not up to the standard required for this club, not even on the bench for me. No. I don't think he's really got too much of a future. He had his chance last season. He started well for a few games and then dropped off.
It looks like he's not in Ollie's plans. He's not getting any minutes now. So
no, I think he should have gone out on loan maybe if we didn't want to sell him in the January transfer window. I heard that Leeds were interested. We didn't take any interest for that. I think he'll be a player that will probably look to move on. And it was a risk that we took. We paid, 15, 20 million pounds for him from the Championship. Not every player you're going to buy is going to be a success. And we maybe get, 50, 75% of the money we spent on him back.
Yeah.
But I think, we do overplay certain players. Maguire played nearly every game last season because we don't have enough cover for those positions.
What about Bruno?
We have two players that can be. Well, he said he doesn't want to be rested, but I think there are some games where he could be.
Yeah.
Potentially could even see him rested. In the Europa League game, I think possibly he might go with someone else.
I think he should go with Bruno.
Probably underestimate.
Yeah, I think he should go
Well, I
through. No,
think he should do because
they're not a bad team.
can't underestimate Sociedad. They were top of the Liga at the start of the season, so
They're still
they weren't
fifth.
a
Like
bad team at all when we drew them.
they're still
Yeah,
fifth.
they're still up there. They're still a very good team. I think it's just I don't know. A lot of people think that we could go for the Europa League, and I think we possibly can. But if it comes to
I
a
can't.
stage of
I can't see
if
this.
we
I can't see this team winning a trophy this season. I don't think we've got that clinical edge to get a trophy. The four semi-finals lost. I just can't. They haven't proven to me that they can win a trophy yet, and I can't see it until they,
I just
I don't know, put in a really good performance in a semi-final. I can't see it. But
I just don't think they're up to the standard required. I think we've got a lot of changes that we need to make.
so yeah,
Probably a good 3 or 4 players in that team for me that could be replaced. Well, no, not just replaced, not sold, but just bring someone else in so you can put those players onto your bench, and then you can get rid of the players sat at home like your Mata, Romero,
Phil
Jesse
Jones.
Lingard when he comes back from loan. I think he'll probably be moved on.
Phil
Well, I
Jones.
hope he is anyway. Phil Jones got to be out the door.
Can't see
Dallo,
it
I
though.
think when he comes back, I think he'll be out the door as well. Are we going to extend Cavani's deal? He's got the extension there. Are we going to do it? I think we probably will because I don't think we're going to sign a striker
No,
transfer
save
window.
a bit more money.
And we'll be stuck with a 35-year-old striker, well past his peak, probably on about 400 grand a week. Then when they extend the transfer or his contract, try and convince him to stay at the club, and we'll be stuck in this position again next season.
Yeah.
All I can hope is that maybe the board prove me wrong. Maybe they go and get a good centre back in a CDM. That for me that'd be enough. I think we get a centre back in a CDM. I think that maybe next season we can see it by, and maybe in the next season summer, maybe try and go for a striker. A lot of the deluded fans think we can go in for a player like Haaland. I don't
Oh
think we'd
God, no.
ever pay the money for
I
Haaland.
don't
We
think we'll
weren't
go
going to
in for
pay
him
100
now.
million
Now,
pounds.
with Mino Riola, I don't think we'll be going in for him anytime soon. After the whole Pogba
No,
saga,
I don't think he'd come to this club anyway. I don't
no,
think we have the ambition he's looking
no,
for. As much as it hurts me to say, I'd much rather go to City at the moment if I was a player.
yeah,
They can pay all the wages they want with their oil money, and they're probably going to win a trophy
yeah.
this season. They're probably going to win the league. They've got the strongest squad depth in the league. The managers, I think he does have a say in the transfer policy there. He can choose whoever he wants, and the team will go out and buy it. They probably put a player on £1 million a week if they're meant to get Pep Guardiola his player, and that's what sets City aside from every team in the league. They've got the most money in the league. Even the likes of Liverpool, I don't think they can spend ridiculous amounts of money on a
But they've
player.
got far better recruitment
Chelsea
than us.
can,
Liverpool's still got, even though they haven't
they
got
do.
like Thiago and obviously Van Dijk cost less than Maguire. God, don't even think about that.
Well, apparently we had a choice of Maguire or not Maguire, Lindelof or Van Dijk when we bought
Yeah,
Lindelof, and look what we end up with. Liverpool got Van Dijk, and we got Victor Lindelof. And again, that's something that you never hear about Liverpool. You never hear any of Liverpool's boards being talked about.
no,
I couldn't even tell you who owns Liverpool, and the reason why you don't hear about them is because they run the club well.
yeah, they're
The clubs
competent.
we hear about the board all the time, the likes of Arsenal and Manchester United. You hear about their board because they don't run the club well,
Yeah,
and that's why you've seen a demise of Arsenal and Manchester United over the last 10 years. And you've seen the rise of teams like Liverpool and City and Chelsea over the last 10 years because they do run their clubs somewhat competently. And maybe that's just how football ebbs and flows. And I just don't see a way forward at the moment. I think it's very, very bleak for both the team and the boards, but just gonna have to hold on to something,
yeah.
and hopefully we get a result Thursday, and then we can carry that momentum against
We
Newcastle.
need
But
a win. It's a
I don't know.
must win. It's a must win. Oh,
Well, we do need a win. Not just I wouldn't say to put the pressure on City because I think the league's well and
we
gone
need
for that.
we
But
need to try and
just to
solidify
get
top four. Because I think if we lose, God, if we lose, that out we're in a top four. Well,
Then we're
we
in the
already
danger
are in a
zone.
top four scrape, but I think we really are in a top four scrape if we lose or get a draw. We need a win.
Yeah, we do need to win that, and the danger is that we don't win, God forbid, then you're looking at the progress from last season up until now. If we drop out the FA Cup and Europa League, you look at that progress and there isn't, and then you start questioning, is this manager the right one to bring us forward? For me, if he gets the top four, I'd have to keep him in again, just because I don't
He
think
didn't
there's
get
anyone
what he
else that
wanted.
can really do the job.
What better can he do? Like, what more can he do with what he's got?
Yeah, he wanted Sancho in the summer. He wanted Grealish in the
Sancho.
summer,
He
and he
got
wanted a
Ahmad
centre
Diallo.
back.
Oh, no,
And they gave him Diallo, Palestri, Donny van der Beek. That is probably the most expensive bench warmer ever bought. Not even just a bench player, a bench warmer because he doesn't get minutes. And they got him an end of his career, Cavani, who, I rate him as a player, but maybe bought him in 4 or 5 years ago. He's at the end of his career now, at the tail end. And the fact that he is playing well in the team just shows, how bad the quality of the team and the players are around him. Not that I think they're bad. Do I think they're bad players? It's hard to tell because they're so inconsistent.
Yeah.
The likes of Rashford, even Bruno Fernandes over the last, couple of weeks hasn't been that consistent in terms of his game, but teams are finding out our weakness.
That's the thing with Bruno.
He still
that's why I would say he should be captain, because even when he has a poor game, he still scores or gets an assist. Whereas with Maguire, he doesn't do anything. he'll concede a goal.
I mean, he will, and I think teams are starting to see now. I think they're like the West Brom game, the Turkish defensive midfielder they brought in. I can't remember, Yashoglu, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Spent most of the game, on Bruno Fernandes. You take Bruno Fernandes out the equation, what have we got? We got nothing. We're back where we were last season before him. No creativity in the team. And even when we do put balls in the box, the players are stagnant. There were 5 or 6 balls that went in that box against West Brom at the back post. Cavani, Bruno, Martial, Rashford all just stand there and didn't move.
Yeah,
and
poor.
I just don't know how to explain that. Is that being taught on the training grid? If it's being taught in training, then you've got to put that on the manager.
And the coaches.
Or is it just the players with a half-assed attitude?
Yeah. I think from the I remember watching in the Southampton game when Martial didn't run back, and I was thinking,
yeah,
you can play badly, but at least try. Do you know what I mean? At least try. Don't. You can have a bad game, but at least try and run back. Don't just walk back. That really annoyed me.
I say it all the time with him, and I think his work rate has dropped over the last few years. I remember even his pace; he looks a lot slower than he did when he first came in. I'm not sure what's happened to him. I see him going on the ball. He only looks comfortable when he's on the ball. When he's off the ball, he looks lost over on that left-hand side. He doesn't really offer anything over there. To me, I think when we bought him in, he was bought as a striker, and he's just been a subject of change. He's had 3 managers now. Each manager's played him a different position, and he needs some consistency in his game and in his position. Last season we had him as our striker. He was our top goal scorer, and he comes back the season after, and we've got another striker that's booted him out of his position.
Not very good for his
That
confidence.
can't do good for his confidence. He's now back in that left wing position where I don't think we've seen the best of him. And I think I'd probably have to put him on the bench now. I don't think he can play on the right hand side. It's evident we're not going to play him over Cavani if Cavani's fit.
I think Greenwood influences the game more than him at the moment.
He does, and he's out of position as well.
Yeah.
He's another player where we've moved him over to the right wing. And our problem is we don't play wingers. We play with a left forward and a right forward.
Yeah.
Our attackers give us no natural width. They're all over the place. None of them stay in position. And then we leave our fullbacks going up and down, and they're not going to come up and down that often, because if they do, we're left with Maguire and Lindelof. And as soon as you can have anyone with a little bit of pace, they're going to play it over the top, and then we're going to concede goals. So it's just a massive cycle, and it all comes down to the players that we got at the back aren't good enough. If the players that were at the back were replaced, if we had a proper quality centre back next to Maguire, and a proper CDM to stop playing Fred and McTominay, So you could play someone, if Pogba's still here, a Pogba or a Van der Beek in the midfield next to the DM. And I think we'd see a big improvement, but I'm just not convinced that's something we're going to get at the moment. And I just don't know. I don't know what to say half the time. I sit here most of the game just speechless. I
Yeah,
just don't
no,
know.
I get that as
Half the
well.
time I'm falling asleep. It's just sideways. Let the game drift. Let the other team have the ball. All soak up all the pressure, and then it's just a second half. And they come out in the second half and they do play well. I think we played well
Yeah,
in the second half against West
too
Brom,
little,
but
too
we
late.
just didn't take our chances.
It's-
Too little, too late. Spent 44 minutes of the game doing nothing. For them sort of games for me, when lower league teams, the further they get into the game, the more comfortable they get. And they got even more comfortable when they got that early goal. If we went out to these games and actually swapped the game or swapped our play style around, actually went for the game in the first half, maybe get 2 or 3 goals, then I wouldn't mind, taking a little bit easy in the second half because we're two
yeah,
or three goals up.
yeah,
But we're putting ourselves in positions where we have to, you know, claw back from not even, from a 0-0 going in at the half. It's clawing back from 1 or 2 goals. And it's just, oh, it's so frustrating because the quality is there. We've seen the quality, at the back end of last season. We were playing, very, very well with,
yeah.
not playing 2 CDMs. Last
We were
season,
playing
we
Just
ended up
Matic.
playing with just Matic there and Pogba as the box to box and Bruno as the attacking midfielder. As soon as Matic had, in that game
Don't
against
know what's
Spurs in the
happened to
6-1,
Matic. I don't know what's happened
the
to Matic.
the manager's lost his confidence in him. But I don't think it was Matic's fault really for that
No,
performance. It was a
it was
poor, poor
it's
performance.
a
Yes, we
toll
were
for the
down to
team.
10 men,
Yeah,
but it's just poor defensively, and Matic can't defend for the whole back line. But again, he's another player at the end of his career. It's not a Matic from 5, 6 years ago, winning the league with Chelsea.
and
He's in his 30s now,
we've got him
coming
for
to the
another
tail
2
of his
years.
career.
Got him for another 2 years now. Put him on a 3-year contract last year.
Yeah,
Another stupid
signing more
contract.
players on.
He's
It's
he's
sitting
not
there.
even
It's
getting.
trying to retain their value, isn't it?
What I don't understand, he can't even get minutes in an FA Cup tie against Watford. So when is he going to get minutes? If he can't play against Watford, and he's on a
I
3-year
think it's just,
contract.
they don't want to let players go for free. But you say that, they don't want to let players like Phil Jones or Matic go for free. But we had Ander Herrera, who went to PSG, who was one of our better midfielders at the time, because we wouldn't give him the 200-300 grand a week he wanted. But we'll quite happily pay that. If we got rid of all the other rubbish in the club, we could have easily had that, if not double, for Ander Herrera, who actually put a shift in, most
Yeah,
games.
he was one of our
When
best
he was
players
there, he was
for
probably
a
one of
few.
our. He was fantastic. I really rated him as a
Yeah,
midfielder. He could do his defensive duty, could go forward, would actually play very well in a box to box, I think, in our current system.
yeah.
But we let him go, and now we're stuck with, just players that I think are overpaid anyway. But just, oh, it's so frustrating.
We've just got
If
passion
things would just run a
merchants.
little bit
We've just got
differently.
passion merchants for CDMs now,
Yeah,
and that's
you
the
know,
sadness of it. We haven't got players who've got quality in the CDM. We've just got passion merchants.
Yeah, I think the best thing to say about Fred against West Brom is that he ran. He
Yeah,
didn't really do much else. He just covered the distance. Again, McTominay, he's just a Duracell bunny.
yeah.
Does a lot of running. Doesn't really do much else. In the position that he's played, when he does play those 5 or 10 yards higher up the pitch,
He's
you
good.
do see a better player from him. But
Yeah,
sitting there, telling Fred and McTominay, look, you're going to sit there in front of Maguire and Lindelof to protect them. We were then left with only 4 players on the attack. We only have one fullback out of 2 going up, if not zero. For me, Wan-Bissaka has looked suspect a lot this season, but I don't think that's his fault. He doesn't have a proper right-hand-sided player playing in front of him, and the centre back next to him is normally Lindelof, and he's been suspect for a lot of the season as well. So that doesn't do much for his confidence, and he has made a few mistakes this season, but I don't necessarily blame that on him.
no.
Not only is he playing with players around him that probably aren't up to the standard required, he never gets a rest. We've got no one else who plays there, no
Yeah,
rotation. The only rotation we had, Fosu Mensah, left the
he's
club
gone.
for about £1 million. Dallow's on loan, and Brandon Williams, I don't even see the point. He should
I
have gone on
don't.
loan as
I
well for
don't
me.
know.
We're never
He's
playing
not
him.
good enough. He's not. He's championship quality. He's. I can't say he's not good enough for this club. I know he's another one of those. I know he's young, but I just see it. I watch him playing, and I think we've got so many better. We've got so many better players who we've let go than people like Brandon Williams. And he's not that young. I think he's about 21, 22. You know, it's not like he's 18, because we can't keep
I think
saying maybe he needs a loan.
he needs that loan like the other players had. You know, a lot of young players, they get that loan out and they'll come back and they have that experience. I mean, he did get a lot of game time last season through injuries, but he does need that loan. You know, at a smaller club, I think.
I don't think it's
There
good
were
for him
teams
just sitting on
rumored
the bench.
that wanted him. There were teams that wanted him. You know, even
Yeah,
in the Premier League, not necessarily just the Championship in January, and we didn't accept the offers mainly because we got no one else to cover there. God forbid we had other injuries.
yeah.
You know, if we do get injuries at the back,
God,
we're going to be very short. You know, if we got an injury to Maguire or Lindelof,
got Phil Jones
are
to come
Bay
in.
or Twanzebe going to be fit to play?
No, he'll probably
Because
trust
I
Phil
don't want
Jones
Phil
more.
Jones.
He'll probably will. He'll probably
Well, he
trust
probably
Phil,
will.
because he doesn't trust
Probably trust Phil
Twanzebe.
Jones. He's
He only trusts Twanzebe for 2
no,
minutes. He doesn't trust Baye at all. That's quite
he,
evident.
he's not English. He's not an English, you know, not an English
Stupid.
Brexit FC player.
It's stupid.
It wouldn't surprise me in the summer if he went out and got Tyrone Mings. You know, or we can do it in the Premier League. Probably spend £50 million on him, and
He's
we'll have
nowhere near
another
good
Maguire
enough.
situation.
I don't even know if Tyrone Mings is a top 4 centre back. I don't even. I couldn't see that. I wouldn't. That would be such a stupid signing.
I don't know. A player that I think they probably will look at if he doesn't renew his contract to Real
Definitely.
Madrid will be Sergio Ramos. Again, won't have to pay any money for him. We can probably convince him here. Probably give him 600-700 grand a week.
Don't know if that's a good deal though. 36.
Well,
I don't know.
he'd sell the shirts though, wouldn't he? He'd sell the shirts. Everyone would
Yeah.
be outside Old Trafford with their Ramos shirt on. Just come out the shop. Oh, I've got my Ramos shirt.
Sergio Ramos and Maguire next to each other. That's got to be that just is a calamity waiting to happen, isn't it? Sergio Ramos and Maguire.
I don't think it would work. I mean,
How slow both
Ramos
of them are. Ramos is getting on.
Ramos is marginally quicker than them, but he's 36 years old.
He's 36. He's getting slower and slower and slower.
He is, and I do have worries about his discipline. He's known for getting a lot of cards, a lot of red cards. We can't afford to have a player who gets red cards. Then we're back to the Lindelof in the team.
Well, we saw
and we're
what
back
happened.
to square one.
We had a player in that in Marcus Rojo, and he's gone, isn't he? So we don't need another one of those.
He had to force his way out. If it was up to the club, he'd still be here. They'd probably give him a contract for 10 years, retain his value until someone can buy him. He actually wanted to play football and he forced his way out the club. And these other players, if they wanted to play football, if they still had a passion for playing football, they'd have forced their way out years ago.
They just care about the
guys
money.
like Romero, Mata, Jones just sitting at home doing nothing. Even if all three of those players were fit, Romero wouldn't be on the bench. I don't think Mata would be on the bench. And I don't think Phil Jones would be on the bench. No. They're just going to be sat at home.
And
they're quite happy to sit at home. Yeah, they're quite happy to do that. And that's just the mentality of some of the players at this club. You know, they're here for the money. They're not here for the football because we overpay them. And again, who does the contracts? It's not the manager. The manager certainly doesn't do the contracts. Who's up to that? Is that Woodward? Is that the board? Is there someone we don't know? We don't know because that's not information that they give us. We don't have a director of football who manages the contracts and the signings, and that's a massive problem. We have no footballing people on that board, and until we do, we're not going to go forward.
Yeah, we need someone who actually understands football on the board, not just bank managers who understand pay slips. And it's all good having people on the board who understand business, but you need a bit of transparency. You need people who understand ball, because I know we've got Ferguson and we've got other people on the board, but I can't see with those transfers Ferguson or Charlton were involved in those. So yeah,
I don't think they really have any input in terms of football.
I don't think they've got any involvement really.
No. To be honest, I don't really know. Don't really know he does, and until that's sorted, we're just gonna have to see how it goes, play it by ear. I'll continue to go into games with no confidence, even if we go and beat Newcastle and Real Sociedad by 10 goals to 0. I'd still go into the next game with no confidence.
You can't
I don't have
you
confidence.
can't trust the team, can you? Because it is so inconsistent. You just never know whether we're going to win or lose the game. As simple as that.
You don't know how they're going to play. You
Yeah.
know, are we going to set up, on the counter attack? Are we going to set up to be on the front foot, or are we just going to set up to stand there and do nothing? We went through a stage where we were setting up really defensively, playing five at the back. I wasn't a fan of that. But at least there was a game plan as such. The moment, in the first half of that West Brom game, there wasn't really a game plan at all. We weren't really sat back defending. We weren't really going forward attacking. It was just sort of sat in the middle of the park, passing the ball around, making a few half chances. The half chances don't matter. Even if there's one ball away, you've got to have the shots on target to be able to score goals. And I think what Harry Maguire said again in his press conference after the game, he said that not many teams go and play against West Brom and create 10 chances. I mean, I don't know what he's on about. Probably even Sheffield could do that. We would have had the chances if he'd have taken them, but he didn't. And I don't think Maguire had a particularly bad game against West Brom. He had that one dodgy moment, but he was actually carrying the ball up the pitch, and I think he does that very well. But the problem is he can't do that because then we're left with just one defender at the back.
I think
for Lindelof.
I think he does that a bit too much. When he plays with Bailly, I think he's a bit more on the ground. He's a bit more. Bailly keeps him in check a bit more. He's more safer with his passes and everything. But when he's with Lindelof, he does all these stupid long balls. I often say to my friends, he acts a bit like he's Franz Beckenbauer when he plays with Lindelof. In the way he plays,
Yep.
coming out,
It's just
huh?
The communication between them just isn't there. I don't even think they communicate. They've been playing together for 18 months.
I don't think they want to
and
play
they still
together.
don't have that communication. Well, I've said that, but a lot of people have said to me, oh, surely you would have said something, even to the manager if he didn't. But I don't think he would.
No.
I don't think he'd have the balls to go to the manager and say, look, can I play with Eric instead? I don't think he's got the balls to do that. No. I don't think many of the players in that team are vocal enough. Apart from Bruno Fernandes, he's the only one that I see that, has really had a go at players.
Yeah.
I don't even think the goalkeeper is commanding enough at the back. I don't think he's had a particularly bad season this year, but a lot of people use him as an excuse. As soon as the head concedes a goal, it's De Gea's fault.
It's always.
Let's not think about what's in front of him.
Yeah.
If you had someone like Manuel Neuer playing at Stevenage, he's not going to be a world-class goalkeeper because he's going to concede goals because the players in front of him are crap.
Yeah.
If you put Stevenage defence in Bayern Munich, the goalkeeper's going to look suspect because your defence are going to be walked all over.
Yeah.
And that's happens with us. Our set pieces, we don't defend man-to-man. We do zonal marking, and I think that's a big problem. I think Maguire, I cast my mind back to the Everton game. We were playing, a line, and he goes and moves the line himself to, 2 yards back. And I can see why he did it.
Still puts his hand up.
What?
He still puts his hand up. He still puts his hand up.
They do that all the time. As soon as the ball goes through, every player's looking to the linesman, putting their hand up. It's not offside. You've been beaten because you're too slow and you're not on the half turn. You're not quick enough. But that's not their fault. It's not the player's fault that he's not quick enough. He can't 1 week, miraculously come back and he's a completely reformed player.
No.
But we're just going to have to deal with it because we're not going to get rid of him. I think he's here to stay, no matter how bad he is. And I think his captaincy is going to be here to stay as well. I don't see us changing the captain.
Unless the manager changes. But then
I don't see that happening.
And I don't see that happening either because it looks like the board is sticking with Ollie at the moment. So
I think they've got to. They've tried different managers. It hasn't worked.
Yeah.
We brought in a manager of top quality in Jose Mourinho. Didn't really work. I don't think he really took the club in the right direction at all. Um, you know, and we can't just keep sacking managers. You
No.
know, I think they know deep down it doesn't really matter what manager they've got, as long as they've got a manager who's happy to be the puppet on the strings and say the right stuff about the club, then I think that suits them. And as long as he gets top four football, which this season looks likely because everyone else down below us is inconsistent,
Yeah.
I think he'll be here next season. And whether he'll be here the season after that will depend on the transfer window for me. You know, for me, the manager, you've got to give them a good 2 or 3 years to put their impact on the squad, not necessarily on the players, but their style of play. I'm not actually sure he has a style of play at all. I think his style of play is very much, you know, he likes to sit back and, you know, keep his 6 players behind the ball
Yeah.
going forwards. He likes to play on that counter attack. And I think teams have wised up to it this season, just as they're wising up to putting a man on Bruno, harassing him all game. And, you know, he's then got to work harder to get the goals and assists. And luckily, he does have that, you know, he does have that individual ability to
Yeah.
do that. And I think that's what we've relied on a lot this season, not necessarily good team play. It's
Just
been a lot of individual performances.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're never going to win a league title like that. You
No.
can't, you can have a great player, but you can't have one player who will lead you to a league title. I look at Barcelona. They've got Messi, who's supposedly one of the best players in the world. Their team over the last few years has degraded,
Yeah.
and their form's degraded as well.
Yeah.
You do need a player to play around your world class players, and I think at the moment we have one, and that's Bruno Fernandes. You know, I think back to, you know, when we were at our prime, you know, late 2000s, early 2010s, and you think of these European teams, and you a lot of these European teams would say, "Oh, I'd love to have these United players in my team." Players like Ferdinand, Vidic, Scholes, Rooney, they'd say, "Yes, I'd love those."
Yeah.
Other teams looking at our squad now, they're probably thinking, "Well, we might take Fernandez, we might take Rashford on his day, but
Maybe
apart
De
from
Gea.
that, we can keep the rest of them." I don't even think they'd take De Gea
Yeah.
now.
Not many big teams.
No, you know, we're very lucky still to have him. If it wasn't for Real Madrid's dodgy fax machine, he would have been playing for Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And we would be with Sergio Romero. There wasn't enough time when that transfer was going through to get another player in, and we would have been in even more of a mess then. So we can thank our lucky stars for that. But no, I don't really have any confidence in the team at the moment. I think it all depends, you know, on the team he picks. Well, I think it's very obvious the team he'll pick against Newcastle. He seems to have a somewhat regular starter now. Whether he plays Greenwood or whether he plays Martial, I'm not too sure, but I think everyone else is guaranteed. You're going to see De Gea in net. You're going to see Luke Shaw, Maguire, probably Lindelof, even though Bay is fit. You're going to see Wan-Bissaka. You're going to see Fred and McTominay. There's no Pogba to play there. You're going to see Rashford on the left, Bruno down the middle, probably see Cavani up top. And then either Martial will be over on the left, right. They seem to switch all the time, or he'll play Greenwood over there. And
Yeah.
that team's fine. I think it's good enough to get the result against Newcastle if we play the correct style of football. If we
Yeah.
don't, we're in massive, massive trouble.
Yeah. So, what would you say your predictions are for it in terms of like a score prediction? If you could give one, I don't know, it's a hard question.
2-1 United. I think we'll concede. I don't see us scoring more than 2, but I think we'll probably concede as well. I think we'll edge it over the line.
It's a hard, it's a really hard one. I think it'll be very close. It's either like a 1-0 or a 2-1 for me. I can't see us scoring many goals in the form we're in.
No.
But then I could see us conceding as well. So it could be anything from 2-1 to a 3-2, something like that. But I think we will get it. Well, yeah, it could be. It could be. Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Hopefully.
But we'll see. We'll see on the weekend. See how on the weekend how it goes. Hopefully we get the win. Yeah, thanks for